Hello, I'm Nathan Martin with the Divine Pollination Hive and the UnityProcess.com. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing the differences between positive thinking and a positive focus. And I'm going to talk about what we advocate and what we don't advocate. If this is something that interests you, stay tuned. As I mentioned before, we're going to be doing this video on positive thinking versus positive focus. And we're going to take a look at what the differences are between them and what we actually do and what we try to avoid. So first of all, we're not positive thinkers. We consider ourselves emotionally neutral in many regards. We're not into positive thinking. We're not into looking at the cup as half full rather than half empty. This is really the effect of a negative focus. So positive thinking is something you do when you have a negative focus. And having a positive focus negates the need for positive thinking. You don't need positive thinking anymore. So positive thinking is like trying to find the brighter side. I'm trying to find the brighter side of an experience I just had. I don't really like what happened to me, and I don't want to just always talk about the negative, so I'll just try to find the positive side of it and the positive thinking aspect of it. Like, well, there's a silver lining, and maybe next time, and golly gee willikers, we can do it, I just know it. And really there's this aspect and element of hope. So I'm hoping that things are going to go better next time. I'm hoping that things are not going to show me what they are showing me if I just be positive enough. If I just be positive enough, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to be a doormat anymore. I'm not going to be suffering and in pain and all these things that I'm experiencing. And maybe this next day is going to be my breakthrough. So we have the positive thinking, and it's really just an outcrop of negative focus. Because a negative focus is where you're always focusing on the negative aspects of life, and you can't get away from it. But really, this happens to us naturally from children. I mean, this is what we're raised with in a nurturing aspect of our life. We're always looking at the negative. When something bad happens to us, or when we experience something, it's, the water kind of rolls off the duck's back on anything good, and we're always looking at that which we're losing. We're experiencing pain. So when a painful thing happens to us, we're focusing on that pain, and then we're going to try to prevent it in the future. And so we're always kind of focused on that, and then we'll even experience what's called resistance when we hesitate. We'll hesitate, the brain will go into what's called cost-benefit analysis. We're really now trying to protect ourselves from that pain. And so, let's say you're raising a dog, you have a puppy, and I'm going to use an example from my own life. And we had a puppy that only wanted to chase the cats, and they wanted to totally dominate the cats, not because it was being mean, but because she was just wanting to play, and she wasn't aware of her size difference. She wasn't aware of how her big size compared to the cats was an issue, and how her overzealousness also was an issue. And so our fear kind of kicked in, and then we are always trying to keep them separate, always trying to separate them, keep them apart from each other. Don't fight, don't stay away from her, stay away from her, stay away from the cats, stay away from the cats. But rather than being focused on the positive aspect, we were being focused on the negative. We're being focused on what bad could happen. And if we were positive thinking with that, then we'd say, well, at least she doesn't go after them all the time. Well, at least she's, she doesn't mean bad. Well, at least she's a good dog most of the time. But, we weren't actually changing what we were dealing with. And positive focus actually deals with what is, rather than kind of escaping from what is. So positive thinking is escaping from what is, but positive focus is dealing with and acknowledging what is. So, and we learned this from some tricks from YouTube for training a dog. And it started kind of to develop our understanding of positive focus. So when the dog would actually chase after the cat, we would not intervene to a point where at the moment where we saw her not doing something to the cat, then we would give positive reinforcement or positive feedback. So we'd be like, oh yeah, really good. And we have this little clicker, and we click it, and then we give a treat at the exact same time. So we were trying to focus on the opportunity. So if in just one split second the dog was doing something nice and something good and not actually attacking the cat, then we would reinforce that aspect. And so out of 100% experience, you have this experience that overall is 100% of the experience. And maybe 2% of the experience was the dog actually being okay with a cat, and the other 98% was the dog being bad with a cat. We would then reinforce that 2%. And eventually that pretty much became 100% because we just kept reinforcing it. Now, if you think of our ego as a puppy that needs to be trained, and speaking of puppy, I said puppy and she started walking over to me. If we look at a puppy, our ego as a puppy that needs to be trained, really what we're doing when we're focusing on positive, even training a dog, is we're retraining ourselves to have a positive focus. So in those moments where I'm walking the dog now, I'm trying to do the thing where I walk the dog with a very relaxed leash, where we're always walking and I don't have to tighten the leash at all. And it's just relaxed by my side and the dog's not pulling and she's, being good, so to speak. So in that experience, at the moments that the leash is relaxed, I'm in my own mind thinking, great dog, this is awesome. I love how this is working. So I'm reinforcing my own ego. I'm reinforcing that, and I'm sending that out kind of energetically because it starts in my own thinking and then it spreads to my experience with the walking the dog. So every moment that she starts pulling on the leash, I do some behavior modification. I'll use my hand and I'll kind of bite underneath her neck right here, very relaxed and gently, because the mother dog will kind of nibble on in the neck area or the throat area, not hard, not on the throat, but just on the skin, to get their attention and to teach the dog. And so that's kind of what we do. So when she really starts pulling on the leash, I make a sound. I go, shh. I got this from Cesar Millan. I bite the neck, the throat area ever so gently, just to kind of let her know that this is a teaching moment. So I'm not ignoring the negative. But then what I'm mostly focusing on is when there's the positive, I'm focusing on the positive. So I'm correcting the negative when it happens, but I'm taking extra care, extra time, extra energy of mine to really focus on the positive aspects of that. And I can say it out loud, but it's not necessarily needed out loud because, dogs mirror back to us our energy. And so if we are focusing on that positive aspect of them, when the leash is relaxed and they're not pulling and they're walking by our side, then what's going to happen is they're going to pick that up. But more than anything, we're retraining our own mind. We're training our ego because our ego is like a puppy and our ego needs to be trained. So it's not that the ego is a bad thing. It's that we're always focusing on the negative and then the ego thinks it has to protect us, rather than training the ego to focus on the good thing and then allowing our focus to be on that and to create more of that. Because really what we focus on, we create. We create that which we focus on. So if we're always focusing on the negative, we are going to create more negative. And then when we create that negative, we're going to have to try to control and dominate with behavior modification techniques and attacking it. So we're literally fighting that which we create. Our creations become our monsters. It is Frankenstein's monster in many regards. When we're overtly focused on the negative, we create Frankenstein. We are the creator, and our creation goes wild. And then we have to try to control it, to dominate it, or eventually submit to it. But one way or another, we are in conflict with our creations because of negative focus. This is where the concept of duality comes from. Good and evil comes from a negative focus. But once we start really kind of looking at those behaviors, those experiences that we like, and we start really focusing on those exclusively, then when the negative happens, it's like water off a duck's back. We're not focusing on it. And when it does happen, we're just adjusting as necessary. We're correcting it as necessary. We're having boundaries. Now, here's the interesting thing about a boundary. A boundary is never telling somebody what to do. A boundary is telling others in the world around you what you are going to do. Now, there is both a positive and a negative aspect to boundaries. The negative being the correction. So when I'm correcting my dog when she's walking with me and I nibble on her neck with my hand and I pull back and I say shh to her, that is like the fence pole of a boundary. I'm creating, the fence poles. That is what I do not want. But I'm not focusing exclusively on what I do not want. I'm focusing on the positive aspect and really putting energy into that. So if the negative is the fence poles, then the positive that make up the boundaries is the slats that go between, or the wire that goes between the fence poles. They clearly, they keep things on the other side of the fence. So for example, when I'm going for a walk, I correct, that is the negative aspect of the boundary. And then whenever she's doing the right things, I'm really making sure to focus on those instances of my gratitude. Because interestingly enough, on the Duality to Unity feelings wheel, which is a tool that Aline and I developed for the Divine Pollination Hive, on one side we have approval and rejection. But on the other side we have gratitude. So in Unity we're in gratitude, but when we have a negative focus, we're in rejection and approval. Another word for rejection is punishment. So we're punishing those things that, we do not like. We're not disciplining, we're not correcting, we're punishing. We're really angry, we're attacking, we're just really focusing on that negative. And then if we do approval-based things, it's only to gain approval, or we expect others to get approval from us. But this is also the result of the negative focus. But when you're in a positive focus, you're in an experience of being, the I amness of gratitude. So when my dog is walking and the leash is relaxed, I'm in this state of gratitude. Oh, I'm really grateful for this opportunity, this experience where she is walking by my side without any tension. And so that is the positive aspect, or the slats that comprise the fence. Not the fence poles, that's the negative, and the slats are the positive. And this kind of makes up the unity experience. You think, well, there's still a duality because you have the negative and the positive, but they're really one thing. They're one fence. It's one fence. Most people are really caught up in the negative when they're setting boundaries. They don't even understand the positive concept or aspect of boundaries, focusing on the beneficial, focusing on what you do want to create. So for example, let's take this into a business. When you're paying bills in your business, you could look at it as a negative, like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. I always have to pay these bills. I'm barely making it by. But really what you could be doing is focusing on the beneficial when you're paying these bills. So you're paying the bills and you're saying, oh, this is for my employees. I love my employees. I love that I have employees in my business. Or this is for my expenses. I love these expenses because these expenses make up my product. And I need to pay the electricity. I need to have the heat on. I need to have these employees because they're all working towards this service that I'm providing. And so if you could experience the gratitude, the house, you're making a house payment. Oh, I'm just really excited about making this house payment because this is what gives me the everyday experience of living in this house. And so this is just a reminder that I'm living in this house. Rather than being a reminder of the lack, the negative focus, it's a reminder of the positive focus. So positive thinking would say, well, at least I have a little bit of money left over after paying this bill. Negative focus, trying to come up to the brighter side of the negative focus. Positive focus, though, is I'm really grateful that I get to even be making this house payment right now because I have this wonderful house. I'm really grateful that I'm paying the bill for the gas right now because it keeps my house warm. And I'm so grateful for all the cozy moments, all the warm moments in my house during the winter because I don't like being cold. I really enjoy that. But a negative focus would be like, oh, we got to make sure we don't turn the heat up very often. If we turn the heat up often, it's going to be, too expensive, and we don't want to pay that. And so then, we're writing our checks with this fear in mind. That's a negative focus. So if we're constantly looking at the positive and being grateful for it, we're going to create more of those experiences. We're going to create more experiences of being warm. We're going to create more experiences being in a wonderful house. We're going to create more experiences of our business being successful. I'm going to give you some ways to help train your mind so that you can really start working through this. And so what I recommend is something like a blackjack app on your iPad or iPhone or Android, whatever you have. And when you play that game, instead of playing it where you're hoping to make money or something like that, because that's the hope, that's negative focus, or you're worried about the losing of the money, I want you to be aware and really focus on the positive. So every time you actually win, you're just doing the same bet, $5, whatever it is, 5 units or credits. You spend 5 and you either win or lose. And on the negatives, don't think about it. On the positives, really accentuate it. Oh, I'm really grateful for that. I'm really grateful that I made 5 from that. 5 credits, $5, 5 euros. And really focus on those opportunities that you win. And really don't even kind of pay attention to, be aware of, but you don't have to focus on those negative opportunities. Now, if you really start noticing that you're getting really angry and it's frustrating because you just won, you keep losing, then this is going to tell you that you really need to do some shadow work now. You're going to have to kind of go into your shadow and understand why you're focusing so much on the negative and you can't focus on the positive. So this is a really good opportunity to practice your focus. Feel the gratitude every time you win 5. Feel the gratitude every time you win. Really don't focus on every time you lose, which is the negative focus. Don't focus on the loss of 5 credits every time you lose. Focus on every time you win, the positive benefit. Also focus on the enjoyment that you're getting from the game. So these are just aspects of positive focus. Again, not positive thinking. Positive thinking is, oh well, maybe next time. Golly gee willigers, I hope I can, I can get this done. I hope this can work next time. I hope this can work this time. I hope when I push this button it's going to work. Oh, it didn't work. Maybe I'm just not positive thinking well enough. It's not going to work. That's a negative focus. Positive thinking is just an escape method of negative focus. Hopefully you learned something from this. If you have any other exercises that you could find that helps you to focus on the positive aspect of something, of focusing on what is here and now, please let me know. I'd like to hear what kind of games, what kind of exercises you come up with that can help us focus on the positive aspect of any given situation, so that we can help develop our ego, train that little puppy within us, our inner child, so that we can develop that positive focus, so that when negative things happen, we are mindful of them, but it's like water off a duck's back. We make tiny corrections as necessary, but we continue to create that which we focus on, which is the positive. If you enjoyed this video, please click like. If you'd like to stay up to date with my videos, please subscribe. If you would like to be notified via email whenever I release a new video, please click the bell next to subscribe. If you have any comments or questions or would like to go into a dialogue about this topic, please leave them in the comments section below. I'm Nathan Martin with the Divine Pollination Hive and the UnityProcess.com. Be safe, be sovereign, be well.